South Korea awoke to a bewildering new reality on December 3, 2024. Gone were the familiar rhythms of democracy, replaced by the stark pronouncements of martial law. At 11 p.m. the previous evening, President Yoon Suk Yeol delivered a solemn address to the nation. Citing imminent threats from North Korea and internal enemies, he declared a state of martial law, effectively placing the country under military control. This unprecedented move sent shockwaves through South Korea and beyond, marking the first such declaration since 1980. The world watched with bated breath, uncertain of what this dramatic shift meant for the future of the Korean peninsula. The timing of this declaration raised immediate eyebrows. President Yoon, facing mounting pressure from impeachment attempts and a deeply divided parliament, had seen his approval rating plummet to a dismal 25%. Critics were quick to point out the convenient timing of the martial law declaration, questioning whether it was a desperate attempt to cling to power amidst growing dissent. The speed and scope of the military takeover were equally alarming. Within hours of President Yoon's address, heavily armed soldiers were deployed to strategic locations across the country. Checkpoints appeared on major roads, and a palpable sense of unease settled over South Korean cities. In his televised address, President Yoon painted a dire picture of the threats facing South Korea. He spoke of North Korean aggression, claiming that intelligence reports indicated an imminent attack. He also denounced what he called anti-state activities within South Korea itself, accusing his political opponents of undermining national security and sowing discord among the people. These accusations, delivered with an air of grave concern, were enough to convince some segments of the population. However, many saw through what they perceived as a thinly veiled power grab. The timing of the martial law declaration, coming amidst political turmoil and plummeting approval ratings for President Yoon, fueled skepticism about his true motivations. Critics argued that the supposed threats from North Korea and internal enemies were exaggerated, serving as convenient pretexts for a calculated seizure of power. The international community, too, expressed concern over the lack of concrete evidence to support President Yoon's claims. The absence of any unusual military activity from North Korea only deepened suspicions that the martial law declaration was a calculated move to silence dissent and consolidate power. With the stroke of a pen, President Yoon had effectively suspended the democratic processes that had been painstakingly built over decades. Parliament was dissolved, political parties were forbidden from assembling or engaging in any form of political activity, and strict media censorship was imposed. Leading the charge in this new order was General Park An-soo, the ROK Army Chief of Staff, now vested with sweeping authority. His first acts were swift and uncompromising. Opposition leaders were placed under house arrest and a media blackout was enforced, with soldiers patrolling newsrooms and broadcasting stations. The crackdown on dissent was immediate and brutal. Protests erupted in cities across South Korea, with citizens taking to the streets to voice their opposition to the martial law declaration. These demonstrations were met with a show of force by the military. Tear gas canisters filled the air, and the thud of batons against flesh echoed through the streets. Images of bloodied protesters being dragged away by soldiers flooded social media, sparking outrage and further solidifying the perception of a government resorting to authoritarian tactics.